So I know it's been quite overdue for another Let's Not Meet series video, but here is another, and I hope you enjoy it. Last week, I had lunch with my mom at Friendly's. For those who don't know, Friendly's is a popular restaurant on the East Coast. It's fairly inexpensive, and it's a decent restaurant. The main demographic is kids. My mother used to take me there all the time as a boy. As we were eating our meal, I observed a disheveled looking man enter the restaurant. I thought he was homeless. He had thick glasses, a dirty beard, suspicious eyes, and baggy clothing. His bald head was bleached with dirt, and his presence made me feel uncomfortable. I watched the hostess ask him if he needed a table for one, but he walked right past her and sat himself. A waitress swiftly brought him a Coke. My mother and I continued to chat and eat, but I kept my eye on him. Something about him made me very nervous. He never caught on to me staring because his eyes never wandered from that little boy in the booth in front of his. The waitress did not come back to serve him any food. He kept slowly sipping the Coke that he had ordered. The little boy and his family left. The man got up, and he paced around the restaurant a bit and found a new table to sit at. I thought it was odd that he would change seats. Soon, he got up and changed seats again. I began to catch on what he was doing. He was changing his seat to sit near different little kids. The kids were with their parents, so there wasn't much that he could do. Really? Really, Word? You had to do that to me? Fuck you, Word. The kids were with their parents, so there's not much that he could do. However, he seemed to enjoy just staring and making faces. I mentioned what was going on to my mum, and she called our waiter over. He told us that the man came in frequently and that he always ordered a Coke and changed his seat. We mentioned that he was following kids, but the waiter disagreed and told us that he's just mentally handicapped. We insisted that the restaurant would lose business unless they did something about this pervert. He admitted that they did get several complaints about him, but could not ask him to leave or call the police because he technically hadn't done anything wrong, and he was a paying customer like the rest of us. As the waiter walked back to the kitchen, he reassured us that the staff usually keeps their eye on him. My mum and I shrugged it off and finished our meal. The man had disappeared into the back of the restaurant, and I could not see him anymore. As we waited for the check, a young boy with a balloon passed our table and went to the bathroom. His mother and sister were still eating at the table. I had a bad feeling instantly, and sure enough, the man came to the front of the restaurant and waited by the bathroom door. I saw the staff goofing off behind the ice cream counter. I did not make a fuss or call for help because I didn't want to make a scene if nothing was actually going on. However, I decided I needed to go to the bathroom myself, just to be sure. As I got closer to the bathroom door, I heard the boy say something in a high-pitched tone. I pushed the door open and entered the bathroom. I saw the man's legs inside a stall from underneath, but I did not see the boy. I walked towards the stall swiftly and saw the door began to close. I leapt towards it and placed my palm against it. I was met with resilience. When I finally got all my weight against the door, I was able to push it open enough to see the man standing there, with his pants down and his hand covering the boy's mouth. I immediately began shouting at the man, and the man started to grunt. I could tell there was something seriously wrong with him. I forced the door open even more. Several staff members rushed into the bathroom and grabbed the man. They dragged him out and tossed him to the ground. One of the staff members even kicked him in the face. At this point, the boy began to cry hysterically. I left the bathroom to see where his mother was. Everyone in the restaurant was standing and looking towards the bathroom. The chatter had stopped. The mother was rushing over with tears swelling in her eyes. The man was held down until police arrived and arrested him. The mother thanked me as she held her son's hand. I felt sorry for him. He was looking at the floor and hiding behind her legs. So Friendly's pervert, let's not meet. Back in 2011 to 2012, my mom would regularly hang out with Jack, an older man whose basement we lived in. We were semi-poor and his basement was cheap and basically a separate house. She'd recently broken up, again, with my youngest brother's father. It's kind of funny because Jack was the ex's stepfather for a long time, and they remained kind of close, but he recognized how much of a POS his son was and was always supportive of my mom. Anyways, One day, when my mother and brother went over to his house, there was another man who was both friends and business acquaintances with Jack. He did a lot of buying and reselling off sites like eBay and turned a nice profit. The man was quite well off financially, as he had his own construction business. Since both my mother and the man saw Jack a lot, they got to know one another, and the man started to ask my mum out on numerous occasions, but she always said no. He'd get more persistent, even asking her to move in with him, since he knew she was struggling for money. She had gotten a funny feeling from him, and would always turn him down. Time passes, and my mother ends up moving a few towns away with her brother, and didn't really have much contact with Jack, nor his friend. All is well, at least until one day I get an almost hysterical call from my mother. She rushes over to my dad's house where I was living. I was around 15 at that time, and she shows me an article. I get a cold, sinking feeling, and a lump forms in my belly. The man who had been pursuing her, the man who seemed off, the man I heard about, was convicted of possessing child pornography, the purchasing of an infant, and rape of said infant. It turns out the whole time he was pursuing my mother, he was abusing this poor child, and possibly more. It still sickens me and scares me senseless, thinking about the fact that this man was around, talked to, and watched my brother, who was 4 at the time. Mom and I both know that it's more likely that he was using her to get close to my brother. It just goes to show, always listen to your instincts. So motherfucker, if you manage to make it out of prison alive, let's not meet, for your sake, not mine. I am 18 and living in an apartment in Prague, Czech Republic. My apartment is in southern Prague, and in a shady area. I was walking to my Egypt, a gas station store, to buy many canned chickens for the night. It was 2 in the morning and I was gaming. I get the canned meat and I'm almost back to my apartment when a guy in a hooded jacket gets out from a parked car and he took out a kitchen knife. He was dirty, wearing overalls with duct tape around his arm. He walked up to me and pointed the knife at me. "I like your meat," he said, and then grabbed a can of chicken from my hand and ran off into the alleyway. I jogged the rest of the way back to the apartments. I slept the rest of that night in my bathtub with my cat and my automatic pistol. It was the early 1970s in Des Plaines, Illinois. Back then, it was not uncommon to hitchhike. My dad and my uncle enjoyed doing this, as they were quite the adventurers when they were both pretty young in their early teens. They had just gone fishing when they had made their way to a nearby coffee shop parking lot in search of a ride to get close to home. A middle-aged man stopped to pick him up. There was nothing really striking about this guy. He just looked like the typical guy, so they got in the car with him. My dad sat in the passenger seat while my uncle sat in the middle back seat. Everything was fine until the driver reached his arm towards the back of the car and put his hand on my uncle's knee. My dad's creepometer sounded right away, and as soon as they came to a stoplight, my dad got out the car, took his brother by the arm, and got the fuck out of there. Fast forward a few years, it's 1978, and my dad catches a glimpse of a familiar face in the Chicago newspaper. It's the man who picked them up a few years back. The article states that this man was arrested after police found 33 teenage males buried in various parts of his home, including the crawl space. This sick man would find teenage boys wherever he could to rape, torture, and kill. His name was John Wayne Gacy. Needless to say, I'm happy my dad reacted as quickly as he did. My dad and uncle were there, right age to be one of his victims. It's scary to think what could have happened and how I wouldn't be here today. So Gacy, even though you are dead now, I am thankful you and my dad never really got to meet. Hey guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. Let's Not Meet number 5 now. I know it was really delayed. It's mainly because whenever I get fan entries from you guys, I try to get them out quicker. So that's why this one was delayed. And I was having trouble trying to find some really good stories as well. But anyway, I hope you liked it. Remember, if you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe to support the channel, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
soon.